Welcome back to Careful Boys. This morning we have with us a former Special Ops member, Mr. Angel. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me. It's fun to be here. I've been watching you guys' videos. Like,
No way.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
the first one was 2012. Asian Dad Say.
Wow. That long ago?
So my wife Analia sent it to me, and I was like fucking dying because 2012, not everybody was on the social media game. Like,
It was still considered gay.
Yeah, like
As opposed to now. It's the straightest it's ever been.
It's gone so gay that it's actually pretty normal.
Pretty tame, yeah. Pretty tame. So tell us about Special Ops. How do you get in? What's your journey?
Well, his story is crazy. So we have a mutual friend named Paul Gomez. He's like a business mentor to mine. And originally he was like, hey, have you met Angel? And I was like, oh, I don't know who he is. And he was like, you have to meet him because he's a guy that came from the hood, ended up becoming an Army Ranger. And like that leap is so huge because almost everyone I've ever met in the military that got into special operations, their family members are usually already in the military, so they can help guide. So they don't get lied to by the recruiters like I did, and then you just listen to anything and you're like, oh, okay, cool, that's how it is. When you have like someone in your family, they can guide you, and then so I think your ceiling is higher, and it's really rare for me to meet people that are first generation and then goes special ops. So I think if you could explain that story, that's pretty fucking cool.
I'm the first one to be born here in the U.S. and then my mom and dad came from Mexico, and when we first came here, we lived in Westminster, which is like hardcore, Vietnamese, Korean, Asian, and my parents were bakers, my dad specifically, right? So they baked all the
like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, bread for like Saigon Bakery.
Oh no way! Asian bread,
Yeah, so
they're making empanadas and stuff.
So that's because we lived in some mobile homes in Westminster that they're still there. So that's where the first place we went. This Vietnamese family took us in, and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna work at our Vietnamese thing, and you guys will be the bakers." And that's how I worked. And then eventually we had our own, like a little bit of money, but not enough. So we live in now like Mexican neighborhoods where low income, and with that comes drugs, crime, gangs, and all that. So I stayed away from it for as much as possible. I skated. Well, I still skate, but like I use skateboarding as my way out of just being me. Not necessarily doing it on purpose to be away from the gangs, but just like that's what interests me, right? Everything in my house was Spanish, TV, radio, food, so everything like American was like, to me was like, oh shit, like X Games, fuck. I go to my friend's house like, what the fuck is X Games? And then
Let's drink some monsters.
Yeah. Yeah, like,
wrestling.
Everything hardcore like American that I wanted, and my family was like, no, bro, we barely have money for this and that. So anyways, I would skate a lot, but then I became of age of like, the gang members are asking me like, hey, what gang are you from? Now you're not a little kid, now you're a teenager. So I stayed away from it, but eventually I did join a gang because my little skate crew, this one gang took a skateboard from the skate crew, and I was like angry, and I wanted to get our board back. I'm like, bro, you took my fucking friend's skateboard, but I couldn't do shit because they're all gang members, and most of the skaters in our crew were like, they're just skaters, they're not fighters, they're not gang members. So I was like, man, fuck, like, is this gonna be my life now, like getting picked on? And I'm like, man, I don't like to get picked on. And obviously I didn't understand the repercussions of my decisions until later on, but within the school I met some guys that were pretty cool, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't like that gang. And I'm like, bro, I don't like that gang either, let's fucking kick it. And we're hanging out, and next thing you know, I joined the gang, and it was just for protection. But I didn't understand that when I joined that gang, not only, yes, I was getting protection from this other gang at the school, but I now had beef with other gang members that didn't even go to that school, and their friends, and whatever gangs those friends went, were part of.
Like all the history, all the baggage is now part of yours.
Yeah. And
This must have been a sick skateboard, dude. I'm getting it back, dude.
Out of the skateboard that started it all.
And so I was just part of the gang, but then things escalated really quick, like I got stabbed, I got shot at, and then it all happened fast, and I would see some of the gang members have money, and I'm like, bro, I want money, but I wanted money to like. When I started selling drugs, I was buying clothes and food for my brothers and sisters. Like I grew up on hand-me-downs, and then if we had like brand new stuff, it was knockoff. So it was like, you know, my Vans weren't like, it was like a straight line. Vans don't have a straight line, or my Adidas had like a missing stripe or an extra stripe. So even when I had new stuff, I would get made fun of, you know. And English wasn't my first language, so I would get made fun of because I didn't know how to speak English, and reading and writing I sucked at, so I was a terrible student. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna make some money. So start buying clothes, buying food, and then when I got stabbed, it kind of changed things for me because at the time
Where did it get stabbed?
so I got stabbed in my head and in my back.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that.
So if I were to take my hat, or even like you can see like certain bald spots. I mean, some of it is because I'm getting older, but some of it is because I was.
Is it because it was like a repeat stab?
Yeah. I didn't know I was getting stabbed. It was like a rumble, and you know I'm fighting this one guy, and I'm beating him up, and I've been wanting to fight that one dude for a long time.
He's the one that took the skateboard?
No. He was there. He was fucking there from the beginning, and he was one of the instigators. So I always wanted to kick his ass. So I'm kicking his ass, and next thing you know, I'm getting hit. And I was like, man, this guy punches hard, because I started covering up. I didn't know I was getting stabbed. I just thought like, damn, this one dude punches hard. And I hear cops, cops, cops. And this is at by Rancho High School. I'm not sure if any of you guys know where Rancho High School is at.
Is that the OC?
Yeah. It's near like Anaheim, Anaheim Garden Grove area.
Is that where the Wiener Schnitzel is?
Stupid.
I don't know. I didn't look.
50% chance of getting that right.
There's always a wiener schnitzel in OC.
There is.
Is it next to the Michaels or?
I don't know who eats there, but there's always one.
Never seen anyone actually go through the drive-thru ever.
It's always empty.
It's always empty.
Yeah. But yeah, so the rumble ended, and someone was yelling cops, and I hear like, oh my God, you're bleeding. And it's like this girl, she's like looking at me, and I turn around, and I'm like, oh, she's looking at me. And that's when I put my hand on my head. And then when I look at my hand, I couldn't see any of my skin. It was all covered in blood.
Jesus Christ.
That's when my friend's like, oh fuck, bro, like you're stabbed. And then that's like, oh shit. And then the pain started coming in. And I'm like, oh damn. So that I was angry because of that happened, and then because my childhood, I was raised in a very abusive household by my parents. So that day I was like, you know what, fuck this, I'm gonna use some of the money. I went up to the older heads. I was like, yo, I want guns. So I got guns, a bulletproof vest, and then within the gang, I started controlling my own crew, and then I got to the point where I was the head of the crew, and we were doing like 90%, if not all 100% of all violent crimes that were being produced
In that area?
was me. I was leading it, but I knew there was no future in this. There's just no, like all the cool movies, you know, Scarface start off cool in the beginning, American Gangster, like all these movies, Goodfellas, right? But sooner or later, there's a downfall, right? And I'm like, bro, we can't keep doing this. And it was kind of like a perfect little storm. Some of the older heads did some things. They went to jail or prison, and I was like, you know what, man? And I'd already been thinking like, yeah, we gotta get out. You know, this isn't it. Like we can make money. We don't have to be like pussies. We can protect ourselves. But this whole gang thing is not it. So I took everybody into the garage at my friend's house, and I was like, hey man, I led us in the wrong path. We gotta get out. And some of them were on board, some of them were kind of hesitant, but eventually I made everybody go back to school, and when they weren't accepted back at their high school, we went to continuation school. We got full-time jobs, and
They really trusted
Dude,
you.
what a
huh?
turnaround.
That's crazy.
yeah.
180.
But then it was funny because like I would work this job for 2 weeks and I would get a paycheck and I would be proud of it, but I would make more money in like 30 minutes on a Saturday, so you know it's kind of hard to let that money go. And then people always ask me, you know, like, oh, getting out of a gang, you know, is they don't let you out. How do you get out? And I was like, well, I was the muscle from the gang, so when I told the gang, I was like, look, man, you already know how I am, so you can leave us alone or it's up to you, you know. And so they had no choice. So they let us be, but all the other beef that I was creating and being part of for the last 3 years and change. Some dudes weren't gonna let it go, so that was my exit was the most violent time of my gang little part, right? Because I told the guys, like, look, man, we're not gonna do this bickering and talking. It's fucking all or nothing. And that's when I did the most shootings. That's when we did the most everything. And then one day we got raided. 5 of our houses got raided. Yeah, by SWAT. And it's funny because dudes want to talk a lot of shit and they're gang members and they're tough and all that, but when something happens to them, they go crawling to law enforcement. So that's what happened. But every time I did something, I was always smart about it. So for example, I went to CSI fucking classes at the community college because I wanted to see what they were looking for.
Oh shit!
So every time we did something, there was
I'm not here to learn, fool. I'm here to fucking study dance.
And we had a protocol. So it was like, yo, for example, from head to toe, we're burning it. So I don't care if you have new fucking Air Force. You shouldn't have wore that fucking pair for this. We burn it. Any weapons and calibers that were associated with that, trash. I don't care how much it cost us. Boom, trash. So it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So after they raided our houses and took a lot of shit, we all kind of got away. Not kind of, we did get away. So I was like, you know what? I'm like, it's time to join the army. And I always wanted to join the army. The army wasn't a
backup plan.
Like a backup or an escape for me. I always looked up to the military and the army because they had what I didn't have growing up. They cared for each other. They would die for each other, and they were good people, and I wanted to be like that. So I always would, like, at my friend's house who had cable, I would watch the National Geographic documentaries of like the war in Iraq or Special Forces here or Surviving the Cut. I would watch that over and over. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna join. I go to the recruiting office and I'm like, hey man, I see that IEDs kill a lot of soldiers and I want to do something about it. Like, can we find the IEDs, the bombs? Or do we go after the people? How does this work? And they told me, they're like, you can be a combat engineer or EOD, and they told me EOD is a lot of schooling, and I was like, fuck dude, besides math and PE, I failed everything, so I'm like, all right, looks like I'm gonna be a combat engineer. So that was kind of like my entrance into the military, and I joined at 17 and a half.
As a combat engineer? How come you chose Army instead of like any of the other ones? Air Force?
Did you not watch all the bitching commercials for Marines and stuff?
Well, hey, hands down, the Marines did have the best commercials at the time, right? They had the dude with the dragon, right? And the sword, right? That shit
The dragon of the sword was
pretty cool. But it was Army because, I mean, you got like Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down, stuff like that. And
Behind Enemy Lines? You didn't see that one?
I saw it, I think, but it's not that cool.
That's better movies, huh? Damn. Movies work so well, man.
Yeah. Damn, I watched for fucking that one Red Dawn and I almost joined the other side by accident, man. Fuck. I was like, Dad, it's just cool. Oh wait, that's not our team. Okay, fine. It's just I saw a lot of Asians and
I want to be with those guys.
So you joined as a combat engineer?
Yeah.
How did you end up becoming a ranger?
So I became a combat engineer. I went to and I didn't know like how malnourished or like in boot camp, dudes were losing weight. I was gaining weight, and the drill sergeants were like, dude, this is how I know who comes from the hood, because you guys get stronger, you gain weight, your hair isn't dry anymore, your skin isn't flaky and like.
Because you were actually malnourished in your regular life.
Yeah.
So boot camp brought you up to standard.
Yeah, and bro, I was fucking grateful for the military because not only did I want to join for what I said, but they shared love with each other, and then I wanted that in my life because I didn't have that. But I mean, I was born and raised on food stamps, so when 9/11 happened, man, the way I saw it was the country that's been supporting through state, federal, or local programs, it's in fucking trouble. I got to do something. So that was my way of also, paying back everything that my family.
That's crazy that you think like that, because I don't think anybody. I don't know anyone that's benefited from food stamps, things like that.
First time I heard that, too, for sure.
Yeah, they just think I need more food stamps. Car stamps, PlayStation stamps.
And so you know, I became a combat engineer, and so I was like at the bottom of everything. So like I wasn't good at anything. I was at the bottom, and I barely passed basic. But my friend and mentor, Hugo Vanderwall, he took me under his wing. His dad was you know, GI dude, and met his mom in Japan, and so he's been a military brat for his entire life, and the dude was fucking smart, way ahead of his time, man. Like, he was a sergeant, but because he wasn't married, he would have his own room. He didn't have to share a room with anybody in the barracks. And one side was like, you know, young guy, PlayStation, fucking energy drinks, all that shit. On the other side, it was a fucking library full of books, and he knew I didn't understand it, but he would just pour all this knowledge into me about life, the world, history, and all that. And I'm like, fuck, man, this dude's fucking, he got the wisdom like a 100-year-old Jap guy, dude. And then I'm like, all right, I started building myself up. And one day I told him, I was like, you know what, man, I want to join the special operations community. And he was like, bro, you can do it. Like, you can do it. He had already gone to selection once. He didn't make it, but he was like, I want to go again. And but when I told my actual squad leader and team leader, bro, like they laughed at me. They laughed in my face. And they're like,
you a special ops? It's like a movie.
You're
never gonna mount to nothing.
Yeah, it was literally like that. And I just had to stand there and take it. But I was like, all right, well, I'm still gonna try. But then, you know, we had a best soccer competition, and I killed it. And then, you know, so then people started seeing hey, maybe Cortes fucking can do something. And then one of the squad leaders within my platoon was like, dude, don't leave, right? Because now I wasn't the bottom of the bottom. Now I was fucking the top Joe within, I would probably say, the company. And they're like, don't leave, we're gonna go to Afghanistan next, and we're gonna be attached to Special Forces. And we're gonna do this thing called Village Stability Operations, or BSO, which it means instead of having these big bases and going out patrolling and coming back, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the valley, we're gonna have a foothold, take over a compound, and fight the Taliban out of there. Because the Taliban, the Afghans, that's what they respect. They if you're there with them and you're fighting right next to them and living with them, then they respect that. That's what they, you know, that's for them, that's honor. So they're like, okay, let's do that so we can push the Taliban out, create some white space, as in space to operate freely. So we did do that, and it was crazy. It was crazy. From my time deployed, we made national headlines 3 times. There's 2 books written about it. Some of the dudes who I was with are now doing TED Talks. They got their own book. They're on Fox News talking about this and that. And to me at the time, I thought that was normal, because my Iraq deployment was kind of hot, but all the older dudes were like, oh, this is nothing compared to the invasion. So when we went to Afghan and we did all this crazy stuff, I thought, oh, this is normal. Dealing with suicide bombers is normal. Pulling IEDs with my bare hands, that's normal. Fighting not once or twice, but like sometimes fucking 5 times within the day is normal. And then trying to overrun us is normal. So when I came back, I was like, that's it, man. I'm gonna join the Special Operations community, because my Iraq deployment, Iraq deployment, we did some good stuff, but Afghan was the deployment where, we were fucking toe to toe with a bunch of foreign fighters. And people think that, oh, you fight like farmers out there. Like, yeah, there's some farmers that probably pick up a gun and shoot at us, but like, they don't know that a bunch of foreigners come and fight. And you're seeing it now, right? In Ukraine, a lot of foreigners going over there to help Ukraine. You see it in the whole Israel conflict right now too. But this has been happening for ages. So now people are realizing, when I say like, bro, we were fighting foreigners, because they knew how to fucking fight. The Czechs, they knew how to fight.
There's foreigners on both sides, huh?
Yeah. And so after that, I was like, well, we have a bigger impact in the Special Operations community. And one of the Special Forces guys that I worked with used to be a Ranger. So when he told me the difference between Special Forces and a Ranger, I was like, you know what, a Ranger sounds more like for me. So when I came back, I fucking dropped my packet. But at that point, still, you know, I didn't really have anything to my name to bank on the fact that, hey, I can do this, because not only was I going in selection with dudes who their dad and grandpa were in special operations community and grew up a certain way, but like Division I athletes who didn't get picked up by the NFL or didn't go to the Olympic team decided to then join the special operations community. So I'm standing in a formation with fucking Thor looking like motherfuckers, right? And there's something to it when you see somebody accomplish something, yeah, that's cool. But when you see somebody that looks like you accomplish something, it gives, and some people may not understand and some people do, it gives other people that look like them hope. So when I'm standing in a circle and there's like fucking 200 of us, and there's maybe 4 brown dudes, and all the famous special operation guys are fucking tall, big white guys, it's kind of hard to actually believe and feel that you can actually make it. But I was not gonna fucking go for it. I was gonna see if I have it, you know. And if I don't, I wanna find out. I don't want to go through life just being like, oh no, that's too hard. I'm not gonna do it. Just fucking do it. So I was there, and little by little, dudes were falling out, and that's where I learned, and that's when I learned that mental toughness goes a long way, because I didn't give up. I kept going, and at selection, you know.
What is that? Is that RASP?
Yeah, RASP, Ranger Assessment Selection Program.
How long is RASP?
8 weeks. But before you're at pre-RASP, which in some, you can be at pre-RASP for like 10 days, or you can be there for fucking 4 weeks. Pre-RASP,
God damn.
in some ways was a lot harder, because one of the cadre was getting ready for CAG selection, which is also, like, people know it as Delta or Delta Force because of the movies.
I'm aware of it.
It's Steve's favorite word.
Yeah.
I know a guy who couldn't hack it. He never got in.
So
He never made Delta.
Never made Delta.
yeah, so he was getting ready for Delta. So he would make us do his fucking workouts. And I was like, if this is fucking pre-RASP, what the fuck is RASP gonna look like? And he made it, because after I graduated RASP, he's like, oh, if I don't make CAG selection, I'll go back to 1st Battalion. And I never saw my 1st Battalion, because that's where I went. So
He made it.
He made it.
Dude, that's the closest guy ever made to Delta.
Yeah, that's the closest guy for sure. So you made Delta? Have you tried out for Delta?
No, I've never tried out. No.
Oh.
No.
I thought you said like you always want to do the toughest shit.
Yeah, well, he got me there.